Welcome to everyone to this first webinar from the Cash and Wash Technical Working Group on what does cash mean for wash outcomes. We will repeat this first webinar in different time zones and different languages to reach the maximum of national societies worldwide. Cash for Wash is an area of growing interest and importance in the Red Cross Red Crescent movement. In this webinar, we aim to introduce the topic of using cash and markets to give people choice and dignity in how they meet their wash needs and how we can better support wash markets. In 2020, a technical working group was established to progress considering the use of CVA for wash, and this webinar will introduce this technical working group to you. Before going further, let's have a quick briefing on the housekeeping and rules. So keep all time your microphone muted unless you are invited to ask a question. You can use the chat box to ask the question you might have. And when you are sending your question, please send the question to all panelists and attendees so everyone will be able to see the question. And we will try our best to answer during the webinar. And if not, this will be answered in the frequent asked question on the technical working group website. We will also run some polls during the webinar. The question will appear on your screen and you will have 1 minute to answer. In case you are several people in front of the screen, one person can take the lead to answer. Let's start by the first poll. We want to know more about you. Then, for the first poll, we want to know about your background. So normally it appears on your screen. You have 5 options. If you are a wash practitioner, a cash practitioner, a cash and wash practitioner, or if you are from another sector, or none of the above. The vote is ongoing well. So we have already 20 people who have voted on the 27. So you can also write your name, your position, and your organization in the chat box. So I will share the result with you. So from the people who joined today, we have 44% that they are wash practitioner, 30% cash practitioner, 4% cash and wash practitioner, and 19% from another sector, and 4% none of the above. So thanks for this. Let's move now to present the agenda. So we have already started the introduction with housekeeping and rules, introduction of the participant, and soon we will introduce the speakers. The first part of the webinar will be the presentation of the what does cash mean for wash outcome, including a session of question and answer. Then we will have a brief introduction of the cash and wash technical working group with as well a session of question and answer. And before to conclude the webinar, we will have a discussion about the next steps and how you can contribute to this technical working group. Now let's present the speaker for the webinar. So I will let Kostub introduce himself.
Thanks, Ludovic. Good morning, everyone. This is Kaustubh. I work with British Red Cross based in Dhaka as a program delegate. Thank you.
Olivier?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Olivier Bernard. I'm an ICRC Regional Water and Habitat Advisor for Asia and Pacific, and I'm based in Bangkok. Happy to be with you today. Thanks. Over to you.
Thanks, Olivier. So I am Ludovic Arnoux. I'm currently the IFRC WASH coordinator for Asia Pacific, based in the regional delegation in Kuala Lumpur. And we have also, in addition to the 3 speakers, we have the chance to have with us Michael Bellaro, the regional CVA coordinator for Asia Pacific, that will support us in the question and answer session. And now, leave the floor to you, Olivier.
Thank you, Ludovic. So we'll start with the main question, what does cash mean for WASH outcome? Do you recognize this page? This is the front page of what does cash mean for WASH outcome. This document is intended for both WASH and cash practitioners, as well as program managers who want to understand and explore how cash and voucher assistance can support WASH outcomes. What does cash mean for WASH outcome? The final version of the document has 11 pages and is organized to answer 8 different questions that you can see on your screen. You will also find reference to different websites where you will have access to resources, a list of online training available for free, and reference document produced by different organizations. On the PDF document, you can choose a question and click on the photo to go on the page where you will have the answer to your question. So let's start with the first question. What does cash mean? Cash is a slang expression for cash and voucher assistance, which is a provision of cash and or voucher to individuals, households, or communities to enable them to access the goods and services that they need. In essence, it means giving crisis-affected people money rather than things, so they can make choices about managing their immediate needs and long-term recovery. In the context of WASH, CVA means cash transfers or vouchers given directly to crisis-affected people. It does not include financial assistance given to local authorities or other provider of public or private WASH services. Cash and voucher assistance is the recommended term, but you will find other synonyms like cash-based intervention or cash-based assistance and cash transfer programming. For the second questions, we would like to know what questions you want to answer today. So for that, we will do a poll as previously done for the different questions, and we will answer the most selected. The proposition are the questions on the screen now. What about market-based programming? When does it make sense to consider CVA? What should we consider CVA for water, sanitation, and hygiene? When we talk about CVA, cash or vouchers, and what are other important considerations when using cash and voucher assistance for WASH outcomes? And the last one, how humanitarian actors are using CVA for WASH outcomes. So we will let you some time to answer, and then we will go to the most selected one.
So Olivier, the first, I can share the results for all of you. The first was answered is, why should we consider CVA for water and sanitation and hygiene?
Okay, so let's start with this one. So it is critical to start any response with an analysis of the WASH sector, understanding the markets for goods and services, and assessing areas appropriate for intervention. Supporting and reinforcing the WASH sector would be vital, and CVA can be complementary. In analyzing the WASH sector and assessing the feasibility for CVA, the quality of WASH services that would be attained, the sustainability of the support, and any indirect negative impact need to be considered. It is important to remember that CVA alone cannot fix issues of lack of access to WASH if other barriers are not addressed. The main benefits of using CVA for WASH programming is to improve timely, equitable access to the use of safe drinking water and safe excreta disposal, as well as improved and sustained good hygiene practices. At the same time, the approach needs to consider the impact on local markets, taking a do no harm approach. There are very few responses where the market is not impacted. For instance, both CVA and in-kind approaches will impact the market. CVA is recognized as an important lever in creating transformational change in the humanitarian aid system, in helping and enabling people to overcome crises with dignity, exercise choice, and sustain well-being. CVA has the potential to provide a more timely, efficient, effective, flexible, and appropriate form of response when the conditions are right, including in conflict situations. Hence, in most contexts, aid recipients indicate a preference for cash to other forms of assistance. So some advantages: save the time spent on the procurement of big quantities of supplies, reduce requirement to manage logistics, warehousing, and coordination with suppliers, enables shifts of focus from the sourcing and distributions of materials to the technical support, good programming and execution, boosts the local economy. The use of CVA and other elements of market-based programming, if undertaken appropriately, can support and strengthen the local market and support economy recovery. But some disadvantage as well. The prices of the materials and services might be higher in the retail market compared to the prices offered by the suppliers when purchased in bulk. There is also needs extra effort to monitor the quality of material and services sourced by the recipient. And last but not least, another last disadvantage is for WASH practitioners unfamiliar with cash, CVA specialist support will be needed ahead of being able to implement. So we'll go maybe to the next question, Ludovic, which was the most selected question.
Yeah, the second most selected is: when does it make sense to consider CVA?
Thank you, Ludovic. So there are a few basic questions to ask when considering CVA. First of all, do people have identified needs for goods or services? Do people normally use money to pay for these goods and services? Are the goods and services easily available and in appropriate quantity and quality? Is there a safe way to transfer money to people? Of course, after these questions comes a more complex needs assessment and analysis of WASH market. But the basics principles are that simple. CVA can therefore be used to support WASH outcomes, normally in a mixed modality response in combination with other activities such as infrastructure support, hygiene education, awareness raising, etc. There will be times when CVA will not be the appropriate modality to use for your WASH intervention. In-kind and or service provision will often still be needed, but it is important that you start to ask yourself the question about whether CVA is possible or not. To undertake a CVA feasibility study, see the feasibility checklist in cash in emergencies. So this is the answer for the second most selected question. Is there any other that we?
Yeah, I think we have still some time to ask, and I think it's related question as well. Other important consideration when using CVA for WASH outcome.
Okay, thank you, Ludovic. Yes, there are two main considerations to have in mind: the time frame and the scale of intervention, and the quality control of product and services. In terms of time frame, modality choices are likely to be different at different phases of the crisis. Multipurpose cash transfer for basic needs can be a fast, effective response to support people, which may include some wash items and services, and in particular, hygiene items. However, it is likely that in-kind or end services, such as water trucking, for instance, may also be needed, depending on the type of crisis and the context. CVA is used widely in recovery for multiple objectives, including livelihood and shelter, as in the example of using CVA for latrine construction. In terms of scale, cash for work is often used for household and community level construction, but is less appropriate for large-scale infrastructure, such as the construction and maintenance of urban water infrastructure. Practice has shown that CVA can often be delivered very quickly if CVA preparedness has been undertaken. For instance, a national society having systems and tools in place already, like an agreement with a financial service provider. This is similar to in-kind preparedness, such as stocking warehouse with communities. Quality control of product and services is extremely important in all activities, but when it comes to CVA in the wash sector, quality control may need to be addressed differently. There can be a real risks if people access poor quality goods or services. When quality control risks are related to life and health, for example, preferring voucher instead of cash for access to dislodging services, for example, where public services are weak, this could make sense. However, the ethos of CVA is to give choice to recipient, and so far, for many humanitarian objectives, unconditional cash transfers are preferred, and the humanitarian sector should be more comfortable with letting go of the control of how recipients use the resources we give them. For example, giving people soap when this is available in local markets is no longer justifiable. Further discussion is needed on how best to proceed, and clear frameworks and principles must be defined that enable WASH practitioners to manage CVA in their intervention. That's for the third question. I don't know if there are other to be or in the chat box. Up to you, Ludo.
Yes, so let's move now from the question from the participant. I think we have one question in the chat box from Michele Falcon. Can you explain how CVA could be allocated to the community for a community wash intervention? Who will be responsible for determining and managing the wash response if the allocation is to a community and not an individual household?
Okay, so certainly for any of the cash and voucher assistance, you come up with the standard operating procedures, and that is the SOPs, and those are usually contextualized. So at country level, you have your cash SOPs. In the similar manner, you should try to adopt the existing even SOPs for wash, no? And then when there is any intervention that you want to do, you have to further adopt it to the given context. Now, when you are asking the question like, can you explain how CVA could be allocated to community for community-wide wash interventions, and who would be responsible for determining and managing wash response if allocation is to a community and not to the household? It depends on what kind of intervention it is. For example, if it is a construction of water supply schemes, so it is a community level approach, no? So it's benefiting a group of households maybe. So in that case, it is good to go for that. While for other type of interventions, when you are constructing household level latrine, that time it is good to give cash to the household. Again, it is not the, what you can say, only demand side that you are working on. We are always, when in this webinar also, we are trying to emphasize that market based programming also. So demand and supply, both sides you have to take into consideration. So this is a answer in short, but certainly it need to be contextualized. Thank you, Ludovic.
Thank Kostub. On top of your answer, a few months back, the Nepalese Red Cross, they have shared their experience during a webinar organized by the Cash Hub on specifically this water scheme. So we will share the link to the recording and the presentation. The next question from Wendy Neo. So aware that CVA has been used in multiple emergency operations at that times, also in long-term programs. So looking back to those experiences, can some example be given on real lesson learned, either good or bad, on the field in utilizing CVA in a WASH program or as part of WASH activity rollout? So thanks, Wendy. I will take the answer for this question. So this is part of this working group to develop a mapping of existing approach or past experience and to generate lesson learned guidance, specific guidance for the WASH sector. So we have already in the document share links to some website where we can find already some case study. So where we can find the case study from Myanmar, Red Cross, for example, on latrine construction. There is also direct link to some reference document, like the Cash for Latrine promoted by UNHCR. But the objective also of this technical working group is to collect the information from the different Red Cross and Red Crescent societies who have done already this, and to make a mapping and also develop different case study in the future. So that will be part of the roadmap development. And I will connect your question with the second part of the presentation about the objective of the technical working group. Thank you. Okay, so from Chain, sometimes in conflict setting, we encounter pushback of approval from authorities due to the risk of cash ending in the wrong hands and voucher being difficult due to technical limitation. Are there techniques other than regular beneficiary feedback monitoring to mitigate against the risk of cash being redistributed for inappropriate purposes? You want to answer, please?
Yeah, thanks, Ludovic. When we are designing any cash and voucher program, even for other interventions, so that time we try to understand the appetite for these interventions. No, when I mean appetite, what is the given context? So when you are giving cash, what is the purpose of that cash? Is it a multi-purpose or it is a conditional cash? If it is a conditional or multi-purpose, then also you try to analyze the market, because it is going to be used to address some of the needs of that population. So are the markets functional? If you give cash, whether it will support economy or it will raise the prices of those goods in the local market, all that assessment is generally done, and based on that assessment only, you design your cash voucher program. And these questions what you are asking, like the technical limitations and then the approach of the authorities, all these things are taken into consideration. You may have to do some advocacy also in that situation to make it acceptable. You may have to do some pilots that can actually build some confidence. So there are many approaches, different approaches that can be used to ensure that the CVA is acceptable in the given context. And as we know that CBA is not just we go and start doing, but a lot of preparation is also required. So cash preparedness for the national societies, that is also one of the things that is being done by the cash hub. I hope I try to address some of the elements of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kostub, and I think Michael want to add as well.
Great, thank you, Shane. Tough questions. Indeed, I think and I think the answer would be it will all boils down to how well we have established our analysis and how well we have established our risk analysis in term before we designed our program. So and because if we know that there will be high potential risk of redistribution for inappropriate purposes is highly likely, I think we should maybe design our cash interventions that would address those risks. Maybe in the design of the cash assistance, like going back to the minimum expenditure basket, maybe when we calculate the cash grant value, we may add a little higher portion in terms of contingency in finally determining the cash grant value. Other ways is stronger community participation, ensuring that accountabilities are in place within community so that the community themselves are participating and are the ones who are ensuring accountability at the community level. But yeah, it's a tough question, and it will depend on the context of your program. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Kostub and Michael for the answer. And I think we will keep the other question for the end as we need to move on. If we have time at the end of the session, we will answer to it. So the floor is yours, Kostub.
Yeah. So we try to understand what does cash mean for WASH outcomes. Let's try to understand cash and WASH technical working group in nutshell. The cash and WASH technical working group was established 6 months ago, and part of its objective for this last 6 months period was to develop the terms of reference of the technical working group. We also produced document which was presented earlier, and we are also having this webinar with you. So let's discuss more in detail about this technical working group. The next question that I assume pops to our mind is why is there a cash and WASH technical working group? When the conditions are right, receiving cash gives people more choices to direct their own recovery and prioritize their needs. The purpose of this technical working group is to explore when cash and voucher assistance and more broadly market-based programming can be best used in the RCRC movement for WASH outcomes. Reflecting upon what we currently do, when it is appropriate and when not, and how we can undertake it effectively to support WASH interventions. I think the next question that must be popping up in your mind: how can I join this technical working group, and who can join this cash and WASH technical working group? Let's have a look at it. No, so who can join? So members from all parts of Red Cross Red Crescent movement, including ICRC, IFRC, national societies. But we are aiming to have a good geographical coverage. Now, again, the individuals with experience or interest in cash and voucher assistance and market-based programming, and also those who have specialization in WASH can join technical working group. The chair of this technical working group is rotating for 6 months. If you are not interested, if you are interested to join the technical working group, please send a message using contact or frequently asked question form. So you can find that link in the chat box. Ludovic, if you can copy that link in the chat box, that will be helpful. So let's look at the next question. So what is the aim of cash and wash technical working group? So to strengthen the Red Cross movement, wash practitioners' understanding of and engagement with cash voucher assistance and market-based programming approach, when designing and implementing wash interventions, the technical working group has established three work streams. So the first one is knowledge sharing and gathering of materials relating to cash and wash. Second work stream is guidelines and training program on wash and cash voucher assistance. And third work stream is implementation and partnerships. The fourth question I would like to address here is about how does the cash and wash technical working group work? So we have monthly plenary meetings and continuous contribution or reading or submittings to advance technical working group activities. We expect that minimum input of 1 day per person per month is required when they are part of this technical working group. The initial time frame is for 4 years. So we have divided this time frame into three phases. Phase 1, that was extending from October 2020 to March 2021, that is the 6 months, which included introduction paper, outreach and mapping of experiences. The second phase, from April 2021 to December 2021, that will be of 8 months, and it will look into some of the activities like roadmap and then further outreach activities. And the third phase, that will extend from November 2021 to October 2024, that will be of 3 years, and it will look into implementation of the roadmap and monitoring and evaluation. The technical working group also try to ensure that inclusive outreach is achieved, and we are including translation of key information in the main official IFRC languages. We are disseminating the results via online events and a designated homepage. So you might have seen these links also in the chat box. So if let's move on to the next slide and try to understand if you do you have any questions related to the technical working group? What are the different needs at your level that technical working group can support? Let's take few questions if you have.
So I think your explanation were very clear and no need further explanation. So maybe we can move to the next slide.
Thank you, Ludovic. So what's next? How can you contribute? So if you have joined today, it's mainly because you have an interest in the topic. So what can you do after this webinar is to contribute to the current efforts. You can contribute in many different ways. You can disseminate in your network the existence of this technical working group, the different documents that we have introduced, and the website as well. This is quite an easy action that can have a good impact. The second way is if you are already involved in cash and wash, don't hesitate to contact us to share what you did already from your experience. If you have any case study reports, do share it with us. You are most welcome to engage with the group this way. The another way is you can contact the group if you have further questions related to the topic. We will be there to answer and support you in the future. You are also welcome to apply to the technical working group. We would like to increase the membership with more members. Please have an internal discussion within your national society, as we would like to have only one member per national society. The last point I would like to mention is we would like to share with you the information about our coming survey to know more in detail your needs related to cash and wash. All the participants today will receive the summary by mail, and again, please disseminate widely the survey when you receive it. On the page, you can see the link to the website and the contact page. If you want further interact with us, do click on those links and reach out to us. You will find these links also in chat box.
We do have a few questions that they're coming. One was that I think you answered already. The question was how many participants from national society can be in the technical working group. So
Yeah.
you answer well that we would like to have one person, and it's also important that this person is endorsed by both WASH focal point and cash focal point in their own national society. Then we have a question from Xavi, a comment just to add that when we refer to cash for wash, it by default become restricted. And I think Alexander, who is part of the call as well and a member of the technical working group, want to answer to this one.
Yeah, I answered it already in the chat box, but my comment would be, my reply to this comment, that it's not necessarily restricted, because you can also use unrestricted cash for achieving wash outcomes. For instance, hygiene items are very frequently an element of the minimum expenditure basket. Over.
Thanks you, Alexander. We have a question from Ang Chansana. What are the different CVA application between the conflict crisis setting and development setting? Okay, I think it was partially answered by Michael and Kostub earlier. The difference will be identified when you will do your assessment at the beginning around the market, around the interest from the community, and also the readiness from the national society. At the end, we have provided in our document different example of experiences from Red Cross and Red Crescent, and there is no, we cannot say there is CVA option for conflict and the CVA option for development. All are valid in the different situation, but of course you will need to do the proper assessment to see the feasibility of this different option. In the document, you will find this example also from other organization where we have different similar application both in development and conflict setting. We don't have new question in the chat box, so maybe can continue, Kostup.
Okay, Ludovic and participants, let's have the last poll of the day. With this poll, we would like to have the feedback on this webinar through 3 questions. Please answer the poll before we move to the conclusion. The first question that you can see is which part of the webinar was most valuable for you? Second question is, do you now have a better understanding on cash and wash schematic? And question 3 is, would you like further update on cash and wash after the webinar? So you have next few minutes to answer this question.
I will close the poll, and maybe Kostup, you want to comment the result?
Yeah. Most of us like the first part, that is what does cash mean for wash outcomes. So, and followed by cash and wash technical working group in a nutshell. Many of us would like to says that they have a better understanding on cash and wash thematic now, and many of us have a better understanding what you can say of cash and wash thematic, and almost 100% of the participants would like to have updates on cash and wash after the webinar. So thank you for your participation in the poll. We are reaching the end of the webinar, and on behalf of the technical working group, I would like to thank you for your participation. The recording and the document of the webinar will be shared on the technical working group website directly. The questions and answers will be addressed on the website too, and we will not send them by email. We will only send you the survey by mail. So thank you. Thanks a lot for your participation. Good day and have a great day ahead. Thank you.